The topic I want to touch on is something I'm calling an internal rain screen. The internal rain screen basically mimics not having any insulation in your walls, just like an old plaster and lath interior of your average building. And there have been millions and millions of these buildings built throughout the world. They have no insulation, and when the brick gets wet, it's got a place to dry to. It dries three-dimensionally. It will dry to the outside, but also dries to the inside. And that water vapor is always rising through the structure. So that we got this call from a gentleman in Florida who wanted to make sure that he doesn't have any water getting into his new house, which happens to be a 9,000 square foot castle made out of the most porous material on the face of this planet. So I went down to Florida when I found out that we couldn't build two walls because the foundation wouldn't support the weight. I happened to have a piece of corrugated plastic. Corrugated plastic, it's 7/16 thick, it's a hollow extrusion, it happens to be really rigid. So we thought, why don't we just take a whole sheet, cut the plastic off right where the mortar joint is, so that when the water is coming through, it's got a place to drain into, and then it drains out at the through-wall flashing at the very bottom of the wall. That was the only thing that we could relate to at the time, because we were just trying to control water coming into the building. But we also knew that we were venting the wall, so this really helped to make sure that when the wall got wet, it had a drying cavity. Didn't know how well it was going to work because this was a bona fide experiment. So we lined the entire building with 4x8 sheets of corrugated plastic with the tubes running vertically. And those tubes connected to our vent panel lining the inside of the parapet wall. So what happened was one day this gentleman was sitting on top of his parapet walls. The back of his legs started burning. Well, it turns out that the water that had gotten into the block was turning to steam, and the steam was going into these tubes and was naturally going up and came out of the house. We created an internal rain screen which turned the whole building into a linear teapot. It just happened to reduce its cooling load by over 20% because the heat radiating in was really no longer as much of an issue because the heat had a place to get diverted and come out of the house. That solves for three-dimensional drawing on any masonry building. So now we're able to adapt our rain screen to new applications as well as retrofitting into existing masonry or even historic masonry.